Hi everybody, let's talk about land competition in urban areas. So generally, when you leave things to be as it is, then you'll get things called market forces coming in to determine what the thing should be for. So market forces is basically demand and supply, how much people want the thing and how much of the thing there is. And in this case, it's land. According to market forces, land competition is measured by the price of the land or the rent per floor space if you're renting an apartment or something. And therefore, allocation goes to the highest bidder according to the bid rent theory. This is another concept that will go in another video, so when that comes out, you should check it out. But anyways, it's pretty common sense if you think of it. If you have higher demand, then more people want a thing, and if there's scarce land, then that means prices are higher. If you have low demand, then prices are generally lower. And because land is set there, you can't really change the supply of land. Demand is the king in land competition according to market forces. Now we move on to desirable and undesirable land. This is also, again, quite common sense. It's what you want, basically. And for desirable land, you probably want to be near to jobs, near to entertainment like social places or parks or football stadiums. You want to be close to transport, like public transport. You might not be able to afford a car, so you want to use buses or trains, even pedestrian areas or cycling areas. On the other hand, you might just want peace, right? You don't want to be near people, you don't want to be near entertainment, you just want a quiet place. And this is the issue, I guess, with desirable and undesirable land. It varies. Some people may want a lot of noise because you want to be near to football matches every weekend. But some people aren't fans of football, so they want to be in peace in the outskirts, right? So this concept is very variable and it will change according to people, it will change according to time and location. And although you can generalize, just keep in mind that different people demand for different things. Undesirable land is more set because people generally don't want to be near to crime or pollution and derelict buildings which are abandoned places and where there aren't a lot of people, and it's just very sad and depressing looking. But one thing I want you guys to be aware of is that wants are not the ability, right? People want whatever they want, whatever they want jobs, they want entertainment. But if a lot of people want that, then the price will be set at very high. But then how about the people who can't afford these places, right? They can't afford it, so they have to move and live in undesirable land, which is why you get homeless people or you get areas where people are living in brownfield sites or undesirable land, essentially. Because although they want the desirable land, they can't afford it, and therefore they're displaced to undesirable land. That is a concept called segregation, residential segregation, based on income, which we'll cover also in another video. Next, we're going to talk about the complications of market forces. So this is assuming everything is let be, you just get people to claim land and stuff. But in real life, governments are inclusive in cities, and they might plan and they might zone the land use in areas. So they might dictate an area to be a park place or an industrial place, right? And you can't really go against that. Market forces, there might be high demand for residential in an area, but if the government says it has to be a park, it has to be a park. So government planning and land use zoning restricts your market forces. This then makes supply of land even more scarce, so that might drive up prices as well. For undesirable land, when urban areas expand, you are inevitably going to get undesirable land. But that doesn't always have to stay undesirable, right? The government or people can come in to make these undesirable lands desirable again. And they can do this through urban regeneration, which covers three things, including urban redevelopment, urban renewal, and also gentrification. These two, redevelopment and renewal, are done by the government, whereas gentrification is generally done by the local communities in that area. So redevelopment is demolishing the entire place and building from the ground up, so starting from zero. Whereas renewal is using the areas or the buildings that are already in place and then just transforming what they're used for. So for example, a bank being transformed into a restaurant, for example. And therefore you preserve the historical value of the place, but you are still changing the area from undesirable to desirable. Gentrification is improvements to a local community done by the local community. And this can happen in poor and rich places, but generally wealthy people, because they can afford the improvements, they can afford to clean up the streets, to make buildings colorful. And so generally you do get wealthy people who gentrify instead of poorer people. And you should be able to think of examples of these places because they happen everywhere. They happen in your urban place or a familiar urban place. And I can think of many examples. For example, the Lower Lee Valley in the UK, where they changed it to Olympic Park. You can think of the London Docklands, where they changed it into Canary Wharf and a financial area. You can think of Cheonggyecheong in South Korea and Seoul, where they transform a highway into a pedestrian area, or the Atlanta Beltline, where they transform a ring of a railway into pedestrian areas. So there are examples everywhere, and you just have to remember one or two of them to put into this in your exams. Now let's move on to the evaluation of urban regeneration. Logically, you think that when places are regenerated, eventually and inevitably they're going to become undesirable again in a few years or in a few decades. But because of a concept called cumulative causation, that may not be the case. This idea is the idea of areas, once improvements come in, it will keep persisting, it will keep improving in a cycle. And this is, for example, when you create new jobs there and you have better public transport, then the area will be better, people will earn more money, and then the money can be spent on improving the place. So it doesn't have to go into undesirable land. So that's an evaluation to combat the idea that areas will always go into this cycle of desirable, regeneration, undesirable, regeneration, undesirable, right? So that is the evaluation. Another evaluation is the negatives of the urban regeneration, which is displacement. When areas become desirable again, obviously your demand will increase. But remember, wants not equal ability. The prices increase, and that pushes out poor people who used to live on the undesirable land, right? These areas were kind of torn down. People who can't afford desirable places live in those areas, and they have lived for years, for decades. But then all of a sudden, the government is coming in, or the rich people are coming in to change everything. And then now they can't afford it because the prices have increased, and they're forced to be leaving the area to find somewhere else. So that is an issue of urban regeneration. So this sums up everything about land competition in urban areas. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.